All right, 1 2 1 2. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing out there? I am Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon Show, another edition coming to you live and direct. And I want to thank you for joining me in conversation. If you're listening for the first time, hit the like button. We had a great week last week in terms of viewership and also people supporting the program. So if this is something that you like, hit the like button and subscribe to the show. That's a part of the game. It really is. You know, I like to focus on actually just doing the show, but it's a lot more than that. You got to market the show, and you look at content creators and you ask yourself, why they're successful? Because it's a 360 process, and providing content is one of the things that you have to do, but it's a lot more than that. It's marketing the show and marketing yourself, and I'm starting to lean into that more. You know, I felt a little uncomfortable at the start asking for support, but I mean, that's what I got to do. So my name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon Show. Look at the bottom left, it says at Big Frank Red. I'm on X, so you can follow me there. Those numbers are starting to pick up. But it's the YouTube channel that I'm really trying to grow. So if you like it, subscribe to the show and hit the like button. So what we're going to talk about, there's a lot going on over the past 7 weeks since we've done it in the Dungeon Show. The NFL playoffs is in full effect, and a lot of good football, some blowouts, but there's some subplots also that I think that we need to talk about because they matter. College football is down to the final two teams, the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And I got to be honest, I picked Notre Dame to win. I've watched them probably 5 times this year. And in terms of balance, I think Notre Dame has the proper balance to win a national championship. Now, Ohio State, I think, has a little more talent. So it's going to be an interesting battle between those two forces, those two coaches. Day, the head coach of Ohio State, has been much maligned for not being able to win the big game. And Marcus Freeman, the upstart, former the Ohio State linebacker, is now in his second year at Notre Dame after being a defensive coordinator. Has done a phenomenal job. I mean, they lost to Northern Illinois this year, but they have been on an absolute roll. His ability to relate to his players is top tier. And I also like the way that he coaches because he's not an offensive coordinator and he doesn't have the role of defensive coordinator now. He's the manager of all things related to Notre Dame football. And he does a great job doing that. So I want to talk about that particular matchup. It's going to take place a week from tomorrow night. We're going to talk about the 49ers also. The disappointing season has come to an end. 6-11 is not what I think 49er fans expected from this team, but there were a myriad of reasons why. We can talk about those reasons, or we can look to the future. I'm the type of person that when it's over, I want to look to the future. All right, so we're going to talk about that as well. San Francisco 49ers have a lot of decisions to make. We'll talk about the Golden State Warriors. They are a 500 team to take on the Toronto Raptors tomorrow. And we're going to talk about the Sacramento Kings also because since Doug Christie's taken over, the team is, I believe, 7-1. And they had a great win the other night against the Boston Celtics. But I think today's victory over the Chicago Bulls was the biggest game, the biggest win of the Doug Christie second tenure as the head coach. A couple of more things I want to talk about. But I think at the start, I want to pause and I want to send out prayers, condolences and respect to all the firefighters, all of the volunteers who are providing services to people in Southern California who are dealing with one of the biggest tragedies that we've actually seen. These fires are ravaging communities in ways that we can't even conceive, because it's happening for the first time before our eyes. It's not a action movie. It's not a destruction movie. Now, this is real. This is real. People that we know of have lost their homes. Some have lost loved ones, animals. It's absolutely terrible. And it's been on my mind from the inception of when it happened. And the world doesn't stop, but the feelings that these folks are feeling, they don't end. And from afar, I think that we all can offer a sense of compassion and empathy for all people. I don't care if you're rich. It doesn't matter if you're not rich. It doesn't matter. This is a human story. And I wish that it would be covered like that. It's not really being covered like that. Maybe that'll change. There has been an emphasis on people who have a lot of money. And I just hope people who are not in that situation don't look at this horrible tragedy and find any type of joy whatsoever, because there's nothing joyous about it. Before I came on air tonight, I had a conversation with my producer, who happens to work in the broadcast industry as a producer, as a television producer. And he was talking about how there's a chance that he might go down to Southern California and work at the affiliate television station for a while, because people who work at the TV station have lost their homes. These are working class people. People are not rich. So collectively, I know most people, it's a small portion who might find some type of joy out of people experiencing tragedies. I know most people are human and empathetic to what's happening. And even the politicians, to me, it's like, you know what? Blaming whose fault it is at this point really doesn't matter. There'll be time for that. Let's get these fires out. Let's help these people start to restart their lives. All right? That's my take on that. If you want to offer any thoughts, feel free. Hit me up in the comment section. I always appreciate what you have to say. But we're going to get back to sports. We're going to talk about sports because there's a lot of things that have piqued my interest. And this is a good week because outside of football, basketball is kind of taking a pause. They've rescheduled some games, they canceled some games, and it's given us an opportunity to kind of reflect on what's important. I'm gonna go ahead and say what's up to my man Keys. Got something I want to say. Keys says, "What's up, Frank? Thoughts and prayers to the LA fire victims." No doubt about that, brother. No doubt about that. I love your vibe, man. You always come in here with some real intelligent takes, a lot of positivity, and I appreciate that. One of the things that I do, I'm a little weird. I listen to sports talk radio overnight. Some people listen to sounds, music. I like listening to talk radio. Now I'm sleeping, but every now and then I'll wake up late at night and I'll hear something that piques my interest. And I was listening to a gentleman a couple of days ago who I actually think is pretty good at his job. Pretty good. But I think that he has a real warped perspective on the topic that I'm going to talk about. And what is that topic? The topic is when Notre Dame won their semifinal game against Penn State, A reporter from ESPN asked Marcus Freeman, she said, listen, Marcus, congratulations. You're on the cusp of potentially becoming the first black coach to win a national championship. And in true Marcus Freeman way of answering questions, he was deferential, not wanting to, quote, bring attention to himself. And he really didn't answer the question. I don't want to focus on race. I want to put the emphasis on my guys, so on and so forth. The commentator that I was talking to at night thought that that was an inappropriate question to ask at that particular time. And he referenced his producer, who I got the sense that he's a young guy that might not even be a sports fan. And radio hosts do this sometimes. I don't like it, but they do it. They'll put a take out there and they'll reference their producer just to get a cosign, when it might be the most ridiculous take that you've ever heard of before. So the producer kind of stumbled his way through it, never really answered the question. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm fortunate and I'm lucky that I have a platform to speak about things that otherwise no one else might not talk about, because it's a one-way conversation on the radio. What I thought to myself was, this radio host doesn't have the background knowledge or perspective to understand that this is a moment. And I think Marcus missed the moment. Marcus Freeman is very intelligent. He could not acknowledge all of the black coaches in the past who have paved the way for him to be in this position, to experience something historic and grandiose. I thought that was really sad, because we don't live in a, quote, free society. We don't. The events of what's taking place right now in our society will tell you that. I think there was a way to acknowledge the coaches who have come before you, laid the foundation, and make sure that the focus remains on the team. It isn't an all or nothing proposition. And I was disappointed in the radio host, because it spoke to him kind of living in a box and not having the perspective on this moment. I thought about when I was a young kid and John Thompson won a national championship at Georgetown. I stood up and I clapped. I clapped when John Thompson finally won a national championship after losing the first one to Villanova in the most incredible way that we've seen in college basketball. Ironically, Gary McLean lived like 10 minutes away from me. That was an incredible victory for Villanova, but Georgetown ultimately got a title. So I'm interested in getting your perspective on that. And then the radio host goes, well, Marcus Freeman is also half Asian. Why couldn't he acknowledge his Asian heritage? I'm like, wait a minute. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging his Asian heritage, but this is football that we're talking about. Asian Americans, I think he's Korean if I'm not mistaken, but they have not contributed to college football the way that black people have. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's tell the truth. You know, let's not be Pollyanna or try to create something that does not exist. This is a historic moment. So I'm interested in getting your thoughts on that. Am I off base? I don't think so. If I am, then maybe you can show me that I am. Or did that host take not offer the broad perspective that I think that a lot of people are feeling at this particular moment. All right, we can talk about that. Mike Vrabel was hired as the new coach of the New England Patriots. Excellent move by Robert Kraft. But as I said last week, this was a move that we all saw like a train, like an incoming train coming to the station from a mile away. And the fact that a coach, a first-year coach in Gerard Mayo, had to be thrown under the bus and then have reporters explain why he got fired is a bunch of BS. I was talking to somebody, I was writing something today, and I said to myself, you don't become rich by not stepping on a couple of necks. At the end of the day, Robert Kraft did what he thought was best for him. It had nothing to do with Gerard Mayo not doing a credible job in his first year as a football coach. Be honest. Be honest. And guess what? You guys know this. There are reporters that are in place to do their jobs, but also build the narrative of the organizations in every market. You got people who get a little more shine because they are aligned with the various organizations, the various sports teams. That's how it is. The media, working for the media is awesome, by the way. Anybody who dreams about covering a professional team, there's a lot more good than bad. I've had a ball doing it. And I probably haven't gotten as much because I've stayed right in the middle. I like to stay in the middle. And what I found, which is kind of cool, is that because people are always watching you, always, they recognize good work. They recognize credibility. They recognize professionalism. And I have been able to build some really strong allegiances and relationships with key people of professional organizations, not because I'm a homer, not because I'm a jerk trying to, always take a negative take. It's because I'm a professional. And I didn't know that professionalism in all circles, sometimes it does work. And that's been my experience working with professional teams. All right, get some of these comments out here. Andrew the Goat says the Warriors are in big trouble. I disagree. While the Warriors are really in the 11th seed now, doesn't matter. The Warriors season is over, sadly. No, it's not. I can't believe how bad the Warriors really are. Okay, so the Warriors are 500. What are they, 19-19? They got time. They got time. Now, as opposed to being in the top 6, it's looking more like the top 8. And that's not a great position to be in. But the Warriors are not done. Relax. Relax. Now, one of the things that I noticed today, though, is the Chicago Bulls, even though they lost to the Sacramento Kings, if you insert a healthy Zach LaVine, Alonzo Ball into that lineup, the Bulls are no longer mid. The Bulls got a fun team to watch. I didn't even talk about Kobe White. So why would the Bulls ship out their center, Vooch, unless they got exactly what they wanted in return? I've been talking for a couple of weeks with people in the know about the Warriors, and they said that Chicago initially wanted some players and maybe a second-round pick. Vooch is averaging 18, 19 points a game. They might hold out for a first-round pick. And I don't think the Warriors really want to do that. this whole idea to me, this narrative about what we're wasting Stephen Curry's years. Oh, we're wasting Stephen Curry's prime years. I'm like, wait a minute. Is he getting paid? This is not Monopoly. This is real life. Every team wants to win. And nobody's just going to make a trade for you because it's in your best interest. That's not how it works. My man Keith says, I think Jaden Daniels is the best young QB out there, including Brock, CJ. Only QBs. Okay, you're talking about, from Texans. Stroud, right? CJ Stroud. I'd rather have Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and You know what? Hey, man, it's a great story. It is an awesome story. And the thing about Jaden that I like is that he's humble, man. He's a humble dude. And I mean, my first favorite team in the NFL was the Washington Club. You know, John Riggins, you know, Joe Theismann, Art Monk, Jack Hamburger, man, all those dudes. So to see Washington playing well, I love it. I also grew up in New York when the NFC East was a power conference. And that's kind of what you have right now. So I think Dallas is going to be better next year. But Washington has arrived. And tonight is not a fluke. I think they're going to be good. And Philly's good. So I'm happy for Jaden. I'm happy for that city who's had to deal with a bad owner for a long period of time. And now they're finally starting to kind of make their way back to respectability and beyond. And I'm a fan of Tampa Bay too. I love Baker Mayfield. I love how he plays football. He looks like the guy who played at Oklahoma, just a gunslinger. He's the closest thing that we've seen to Brett Favre. Just let it go. You know, Chuck Norris, a rifleman. I like watching Baker. So that was a good game tonight. And Washington won. And good for them. Now, who do they play now? They play Detroit next? That's going to be tough. Andrew says, how do the Warriors go from being the first seed in the Western Conference to now being the 11th seed, you mean, in the Western Conference? By losing all those games. But, you know, by getting injured. By players either showing that they are legit or they're frauds. If you listen to this show, and I know you do, how many times have I said, wow, I can look at Buddy Hield and tell that he hasn't played in many high leverage moments. I've been saying that for 2 months. 2 months. You know, this is somebody who they signed for $32 million. I'm not rooting against him, but pros play like pros. Even Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters, I love the underdog, but Lindy Waters has one good game for every 5. That can't happen. Key says, I like Marcus Freeman. But like I said last week, Ohio State is on a mission. But we're going to see. We're going to see. Because I think Notre Dame matches up extremely well against Ohio State. Even the young wide receiver, Smith, who was an absolute stud, the freshman, 6'3", 225 pounds for Ohio State. What did he have? 1 catch? 2 catches? Look around the NFL to see how many DBs and safeties from Notre Dame are in the league. Quite a few. How many linebackers? I think it's going to come down actually to who runs the ball the best. And that includes the quarterbacks, because both of those teams have awesome defenses. They play like pros. They don't make a lot of mistakes. It should be a really good game. Steve Kerr most really must be the problem for the Warriors. Steve Kerr is a really good coach when he has all of his pieces. He doesn't have all of his pieces now. So my suggestion would be to make some changes. He hasn't made any changes with regards to how the Warriors play basketball. And that's a problem. To the extent that, check this out, not only did Miami play zone against the Warriors, Detroit played zone against the Warriors. Why? Because they saw the tape. They said, this team can't shoot. Now, luckily, the Warriors were able to win, but if teams are going to play zone against the Warriors and they're going to shoot a putrid number from three-point range, it's going to get ugly. You know, thank God they're playing the Raptors tomorrow. And you know what? The Raptors might show up at home and give them a really good game. But the Warriors should win that game tomorrow night. And then they take on Minnesota on Wednesday, a game that they can win, but they can lose that one also. So, you know, the Warriors just got to get healthy, man. They got to get healthy, and they got to get their guys playing better. A trade that we thought was imminent, I'm not so sure now. I'm really not so sure, because smartly, the Warriors have maybe 1, 2, or 3 players that they're interested in. And they're not going to reach on a player that they really don't want, especially when the teams that they're negotiating with is trying to hose them. They're not going to do that. Smart teams don't give up first-round picks. You don't. Because there's always going to be players in the draft that people miss on. You got to get it right. Speaking of the draft, for the first time this weekend, I'm sure many of you did as well, I had the opportunity to watch Cooper Flagg up close and personal. Wow. I've seen glimpses earlier in the season, but he took out his whole toolbox this weekend. Who were they playing? I don't remember who they were playing, but he went to work. Have a complete game. The only difference between Cooper Flagg and LeBron. Now, LeBron is a historic top 5, top 10 player of all time. LeBron is a better ball handler. That's the real difference that I see. Cooper Flagg's shooting motion, he has to work on, because I don't know if he can shoot long range with how he shoots the ball, but he's going to kill the mid-range. He's going to kill the mid-range. And I don't have a problem with everybody not being a three-point shooter. I think it's ridiculous to think that every player must be a three-point shooter. I don't think so. Cooper Flagg's that dude. And I think he's clearly the number 1 draft pick. And I'm going to tell you why. You look at his talent, but look at his motor. That kid loves to play basketball. And man, the Utahs of the world, the Brooklyns of the world, who else is horrible? That's it, right? We don't want him to go to New Orleans. We've seen what they've done to Zion. You know, I mean, hey, it's a 50-50 deal. But how many people had reservations about Zion making it in New Orleans? How about everybody? So that's sending Cooper Flagg to New Orleans. Look at San Antonio, look at Utah, look at Brooklyn, places like that. Glendocious, what's up? What's up, Frank? I dig Doug Christie really turning around the Kings. I'm sorry, so what's up, Frank? So what's up, Frank? Doug Christie really turning around the Kings? We're gonna find out. 8 games in, I don't think we can make that draw that conclusion. What I will say, and I said this from the start, the players like Doug Christie. Liking someone matters. I remember when I played and I wanted to please my coach. There were several coaches that I wanted to please. And I innately played hard, but coaches have real impact on their players. Look at how the young ladies play for Dawn Staley. You think they would have let Dawn Staley down? No, they don't. They don't. So the Kings players want Doug Christie to be successful. Now, they've been miraculous in a couple of games. That's why I think today was their best game against Chicago, because they were down considerably. They came back and they won it at the end. Good win. But I think it takes 20 to 25 games to really make an assessment on what type of impact the coach is having on the team. Because you either develop new habits or you fall back into your old habits. So we don't know. But it's been impressive as hell to see this team go from losing 5 straight to all of a sudden winning 7 out of 8. And the competition's getting better. So I don't know if he's turned the Kings around, but Doug Christie has definitely inspired these players to reach their full potential. And we'll see how long it lasts. Keith says, I want an old, drizzled veteran defensive coordinator like Dennis Allen, Lou Ariamo, Gus Bradley, rather than Salo, just because Salo will be gone in a year. I don't think Salo's going to be gone in a year. Why? Why? If he's a defensive coordinator, trust, he's going to be one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the league. He has a family. I think sometimes this is the thing that people don't like to talk about. At some point you get it and you realize that, you know what? Being the number 2 person is a pretty good position to be in. I mean, people are bowing at Spagnuolo's feet. You remember Spagnuolo as a head coach? Horrific as a head coach. Not very good. So I think it makes sense for Robert Saleh to fall back for a couple of years, not just a 1-year deal, a couple of years. And then he's young enough, maybe he will get an opportunity to be a head coach, because I think that he will be better. I keep replaying that clip in my mind at the Jets camp when they did Hard Knocks. And every time Aaron Rodgers threw a nice pass in his first year before he ruptured his Achilles, you had Robert Saleh on the sideline cheerleading. I'm like, dude, that's not how a head coach conducts himself. This doesn't even matter. So I think from a statute perspective in terms of how you conduct yourself as a leader, I think Robert Saleh has learned a lot. And it's going to benefit him in his next job. But I think what you're getting at is, guess what? The 49ers have options for the next defensive coordinator. They don't have to choose somebody because they have a relationship with Kyle Shanahan, or they might be viewed as a nice guy. No, they have an opportunity to go out and get a really good, experienced defensive coordinator. You threw out some excellent names. Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator has been extremely successful. Lou Amarillo, Gus Bradley, who I like, Saleh. I mean, you know. That's why I think this is an aberration for the 49ers. Andrew the GOAT says, is it Steve Kerr? Why are the Warriors in the 11th seed in the come on, man. You know why. Because they're losing games. Teams are beating them. The Knicks look unbeatable when Hart plays good. He's like a guard version of Draymond. That's a good analogy. I like that. What's up with Zion? Is he the problem, or is his body breaking down on him? I heard he got suspended for always being late. Yeah, it's getting critical with him. And I think that the commissioner of the NBA is probably going to step in, because you can look at Zion and say that he's a mess up and put the onus on him, or you can consider all of the variables. For example, played 1 year college. He comes from a very small town in South Carolina. So a lot of this stuff that's happening is life-changing for him. When a kid comes out of the Bay, comes out of New York, LA, Chicago, they're not as overwhelmed by what's happening at this level. I remember going to a game, just being in Derrick Rose's presence. Derrick Rose conducted himself like he was a 5-year vet. Damian Lillard, who I watched Damian Lillard play in high school. Damian Lillard's the same person now that he was when he was in high school. Real mild-mannered. It's not too big, So where you come from matters. And I would hate to see Zion not get everything that he needs to be successful. It's kind of been a small sample size, but maybe it seems like Ja is making some strides in those areas. And he's from a small town as well. So I think Zion needs to get the hell out of New Orleans. That's what I think. He actually needs to be on the Warriors, to be quite honest with you. A lot of people are like, Red, no, I don't like that. No, he needs to be on the Warriors. The Warriors are one of the teams that I think could possibly resurrect his career because they're so professional. Great organization. I think the Warriors need a new head coach. It's been a nice run for Kerr. I think it's over. You have a right to have that take. I think it's time for the Warriors to fire Steve Kerr. But what I would like you to do is give me a name, though. I don't like that. I don't like, fire the coach and hire who? You're Andrew the GOAT. You're a smart guy. Who? You're going to fire Steve Kerr. You're going to replace him with who? I'm really sick and tired of seeing the Warriors below 500. I think they're 500. They're actually not below 500, I don't think. No, I think they're 500. But I get it. The thing that has been concerning to me is how stubborn he is. Steve Kerr is very stubborn. Now, you can turn that around and say his stubbornness has allowed him to win 4 titles. Okay. I'm never going to say Steve Kerr's not a good coach. He is a good coach, but he's stubborn. When you brought Dennis Schroeder here and you inserted him into a Princeton-oriented offense, you had to know that it wasn't going to work. At that point, make some changes. Modify your offense. They've not modified their offense one bit. Schroeder sometimes kind of does his own thing because he's like, I can't really play that way. I have to do this. That's on the coach. That's something I think Steve Kerr can help the team with. It seems like Kuminga is hopefully forever unlocked. But this yo-yo process that Kerr has been utilizing with Kuminga has been ridiculous. The stats have shown for a long period of time, if you play Kuminga for 30-plus minutes, he averages 20 points a game. How that guy could play 16 minutes in some NBA games at this stage of his career is just ridiculous. I think we're done with that, though. How can the Warriors turn around the season now? Well, presumably Kuminga is going to come back and be healthy. Stephen's going to play well. There's less travel in the second half of the year. You're not those East Coast trips after the All-Star break. They become less, almost non-existent. At some point, you're going to start playing teams in your conference, so there's less travel. That can either help your season or end your season. But a lot of the road trips after the All-Star break won't be as prevalent in the schedule. So that's a good thing. I think the Warriors are going to be in the playoffs. I really think the Warriors are just a mid team right now. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, Andrew. But it's interesting. I've come on and said that I thought Juan Toscano Anderson was better than Guy Santos, excuse me. And then Guy Santos got an opportunity to play. He looks okay, right? Why hasn't he had the opportunities in the past? Why is it taking a bunch of guys to get hurt before this kid gets on the floor? He's rough around the edges, but he looks decent now. So stuff like that. You know, I don't like guys to be buried on the bench. Even Pat Spencer's a decent player. And the Warriors are 19-19. They're not 500. The Kings are 20-19. I also want to big up the Chicago Bulls for the reception that they gave DeMar DeRozan when he went back. I was reading something earlier tonight, and DeMar just said, yo, you know what? I was really touched by that. That's class. That's class. A guy came to your organization, gave 3 years, you know, helped your team be competitive, you know, didn't complain, just played as hard as he could, and represented your franchise really, really well. So I was happy to see Chicago, in turn, show him the grace that he deserved. One of the statements regarding the 49ers over the past, Andrew said, is it time for the Warriors to hit the panic button? Absolutely not. No. Go to Turn on Phoenix Suns radio. Turn on that sports talk market. Ask yourself how they feel about the Suns. Not very good. So no, this is going to be one of those grinded out seasons. The Warriors are going to win at least one of the next 2 games. So when they come back, they'll be 20-20. Literally on the cusp of halfway through the season. If you're 500 halfway through the season, you're right there. You're right there. If you are 8 games above 500, that's 47, 48 wins. Right where we thought the Warriors would be. Key says, Ravens smacked up the Steelers like I've never seen before. Should Tomlin... I got some thoughts about this. I want to read it correctly. Ravens smacked up the Steelers like I've never seen before. Should Tomlin's seat be hot or blame the general manager for not finding a quarterback since Big Ben left? You know what? I mean, I'm a big Mike Tomlin guy, right? But for the first time, I said to myself, I don't think it would be a firing, but I could see a scenario where it might be time for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin to part ways. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because he's not one of the best coaches in the league, because he certainly is. It's because he's human. Mike Tomlin is giving everything that he has to that organization, right? And by and large, the fans really don't appreciate it. The media doesn't appreciate it. Only the owner does. But the owner is hearing the tea leaves from the fans. Fans are delusional unless they're informed. Why did the Pittsburgh Steelers lose to the Baltimore Ravens? Because the Ravens are better. It's not even a question. The Pittsburgh Steelers' #1 wide receiver is a temperamental second-round pick from Georgia that is a top 15 talent that hasn't played, that missed 3 crucial games that the Steelers lost. I mean, give me a break. What the Steelers need to do is they need to reassess how they build their team. Because historically what they've done, they've invested heavily in the offensive line, which has been great for them, right? And on defense. Guess what? They got a good defense. They got a pretty good offensive line. They need to really invest in their skill position. And it'll be interesting to see if they make a shift this year. And quarterback is still an issue because I think Russell Wilson played pretty well this year. But Russell Wilson is the type of runner like Brock Purdy. He runs to avoid duress. You know, he doesn't run to take advantage of opportunities like the Jalen Hurtses of the world, the Jaden Daniels of the world. The Jasons of the world. That's just not what Russell Wilson does. Russell Wilson runs out of bounds 3 yards before impact. I was watching the game and I'm like, dude, why are you running out of bounds? He's 36. Probably scared. He doesn't want to get injured. But he's limited. And if you're going to develop a quarterback, you're going to probably take some steps backwards. If Pittsburgh wants to do that, maybe it's time for Mike Tomlin to go somewhere else. He's a brilliant coach. So I don't necessarily think it's anybody's fault, but if I'm the head coach and I consistently have to drive into my office and have Joe from Pittsburgh, fire the coach. He sucks. At some point, I'm like, do I really want to deal with this? Because Joe Burrow ain't going nowhere, folks. He gonna be there. Baltimore's gonna be there, folks. Maybe you think you can get over on Cleveland, but they got a hell of a defense too. Pittsburgh has to take a look at how they build their team. That's their biggest challenge, not their head coach. But if you want to get rid of him, I get it. He probably wants to go also. Andrew the Goat says, I just wanted the Warriors to right behind the Thunder right now. Oh, come on, man. Trey Tomlin, I know some teams like the Raiders or Saints would love to have him. Yeah. Yes. Tomlin is one of the few coaches that you could actually trade and get something for. And again, I think that we're at the point now where people would scoff at that conversation. But after 17, 18 years, I think it's time to at least consider it. It's not ridiculous anymore. I love seeing Jim Harbaugh and Herbert get their asses kicked by the Miko and the Texans. That was entertaining. I expected the Texans to win. First and foremost, they were playing at home. Number two, CJ Stroud, we had seen his best. Then all of a sudden, he wasn't playing as well as we know that he could play. And part of that lack of consistency was happening when Collins was out. Collins looks like he's brand new right now. So he has his number one wide receiver and a great tight end, good running game. The Texans are a little scary. What's happening for CJ? And Harbaugh, that Harbaugh magic, that's what it was. It was magic. They need to take a step back and really ask the question, how good is Herbert? He's very talented, but how good is he? That's a question that they need to answer. Not gonna lie though, with the Warriors being a 500 team like they were last year, this is the type of stuff where Steve Kerr would be fired. Anything can happen. Joe Lacob wants to win. Steve Kerr's making a lot of money. They could have a moment where they decided that they did not want to go forward. That could happen. Steve Kerr is not unfireable. But I would say give it some time. Because if you look at the discrepancy between who's in first versus who's 11th, it's a logjam. And we knew this season was going to be like that because everybody is competitive. Everybody's competitive. There are not many bad teams in the NBA. You could argue that there are not many great teams in the NBA. But there are not a lot of bad teams either. So whomever finds their stride in the second half is going to make some noise. I'm excited about it. I really am. I'm a basketball fan. To me, if I could just see a significant growth spurt from Jonathan Kuminga, that would be a good thing for me. The Warriors winning a championship, do the Warriors look like a championship team to you? Not to me. A lot of things would have to happen for them to put themselves in a position to win a championship. Injuries can happen though. But aesthetically, when I look at that team, I do not go, wow, that's a championship team. I don't. I look at the Warriors and I say, you know what? They're going to win somewhere between 44 and 48 games. That's what I think they are. Key says, I got the Rams tomorrow over the Vikings. I think the Lions broke the Sam Darnold last week and got him seeing ghosts again. I hope not. I want to see Sam get paid and have a good game. But Sean McVay is a hell of a coach. He's going to have those guys prepared like no other. Andrew the Goat says, why is Curry being so quiet about the Warriors being a 500 team and the 11th seed in the Western Conference? Like, he really should be saying, we really suck right now. I've heard him say we suck right now. But Stephen is a company guy. He's one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid player in the league. He's not going to kill this organization. He's not going to do that. But behind scenes, he probably is saying, yo, I don't like this. SGA, I'm doing all right, brother. Thanks for asking. Andrew says, no, because the Warriors really suck right now. That's the truth. 500 is not suck to me. 500 is average, not good. But suck? No. Utah sucks. That's a sucky team. Not the Warriors. I'm not going to lie. I'm really mad about the Warriors being. Give me some answers in. I wanted to talk, he says, would you be mad if Curry told management he wouldn't mind being traded? Nah, mad is not a word that I would use. I'd be disappointed. And I'm going to tell you why. How many NBA players get an opportunity to win 4 rings? Not many. So I'm going to say never lose your competitive edge. But Stephen Curry has already done some things that very few athletes ever have an opportunity to do. Again, this is not fantasy basketball. This is real. So, I can't imagine him ever going to the Warriors and saying, I want to be traded. I don't think that's going to happen. But nothing would surprise me in professional sports. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the onus is on the Warriors to build a good team around him. Andrew says, maybe the Warriors should stop blowing leads against teams and sitting Curry out of games that they need to win. I like how he's being used. To run that guy out there every game at 36, almost 37, I think is a recipe for disaster. And the impetus for him having a really serious injury. That's one of the things about Kurt I actually like. He's willing to strategically look at the games ahead to see how he can utilize the lineup to protect his players. I have no problem with that. I don't. The reason why the Warriors are in the position they're in is because they threw that game away against the Pacers by low managing him. That's not something the Warriors should be doing right now. I think they need to do a better job managing his playing time. But again, you won't hear me getting upset because they're watching his minutes and providing opportunities for other players to shine. I don't have a problem with that. I want to talk about Brock Purdy for a minute because some of the podcasts that I listen to and I watch have said that the 49ers would rather get Brock Purdy's contract done sooner than later, which I think is a smart thing to do. Is Brock Purdy a $60 million quarterback? No way. If Brock Purdy's agents are steadfast on him changing the quarterback market for salary, I would have to start visualizing the team without him. When I look at Brock Purdy, I think of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' contract was for 5 years for $255 million, with $100 million to $110 million being totally guaranteed. As loony as those numbers are, to me, that's kind of where Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy should get a bag that's guaranteed $100 million with a $50 million average per year. That's fair. That considers that he's been the quarterback for the past, 3 years on a rookie salary scale. You know? I like that. But anything larger than $50 million to me is ridiculous. Talanoa Hufanga, I don't think he's coming. He's not coming back. I read something this week that says that in free agency, he could get $15 million a year. They're not paying him $15 million. Not because he's not worth it, because they can't do it. The number that people are throwing around with Dre Greenlaw is $17 million. This is a guy who played, a total of 20 snaps this year, maybe? And he wants $17 million. Why does he want $17 million? Because that's what Fred Warner makes next year. Can't blame him. Can't blame him. Would you like to get Greenlaw for less? Yeah. But if somebody's going to take a flyer on Dre Greenlaw with the anticipation of him having a tremendous impact on their team, and they're going to pay him that kind of money, go get your money. Now, if they can negotiate a contract that's a little less for Brock, then maybe you can bring Greenlaw back. But you can't pay everybody. I don't think Moody Ward's coming back either. I don't think so. At safety, I think the 49ers are fine. They got Mustafa and they got Jair Brown. Hufunga's probably not coming back. Pay Brock and maybe Greenlaw to a 1 year. Other than that, we need to get better through the draft and free agency, bargain, Super Bowl, a bust game. Here next year, dream scenario, we win our 6th. That would be nice, but they got some hard, tough decisions to make. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Bosa comes back next year. I think it would take something that knocked the 49ers socks off to get rid of him. But I don't think anybody on the team is untradeable. Anybody. So it's going to be interesting. But my take on Brock Purdy is he's a $50 million contract. He's a $50 million quarterback. He's not one of those dudes. He's really good for the 49ers offense. I have a hard time believing, to me, that Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is clearly a B-level quarterback. Really good. But Jalen Hurts makes plays with his legs that changes the game. I like those quarterbacks, the Josh Allens of the world. I mean, those are difference makers. There's only one truly great pocket quarterback in the NFL right now, and that's Joe Burrow. Pat Mahomes does everything really, really well, but I don't think he's a pocket quarterback that Joe Burrow is. I don't think so. We've covered a lot, y'all. Mike Vrabel, the new coach of New England. I think that's going to work out well for them. But, I mean, I don't see the Patriots making a miraculous change next year. I think they will be improved, but they're not making the playoffs next year. No way. I'm hoping that Rex Ryan gets the Jets job. I'm hoping that happens. It seems like the guy Johnson is going to go to Chicago. It just feels that way. Mike McCarthy, I think, is going to remain in Dallas. The wild cards for me are the Raiders and Jacksonville. I don't have a clue who's going to get hired at those particular jobs. I have no clue. I could see Kingsbury getting hired by the Raiders. I could see that because he's an offensive guy, and Tom Brady is not going to hire a defensive head coach. I don't think he's going to do that. Maybe he would have hired Vrabel, but now that Vrabel is going back to New England, I think Kingsbury might be somebody who would take a look at. So, anyway, the Warriors take on the Toronto Raptors tomorrow. I want to shout out the Kings once again on a good victory over Chicago Bulls, 124-119. The Kings are legit. My thoughts. They're playing harder. They're playing smarter. They like Doug Christie. As you know, I've said it, senior softball, many times. I love that Sacramento fan base, man. I feel close to them. They should, and they deserve to have a decent team. So I'm happy for the Kings fans. I think you need 20 to 25 games to make a definitive assessment on how the team is doing. But they won 7 out of 8 with Doug Christie. That's nothing to sneeze at. They're over 500, and let's hope it continues for them. All right? There you go. I'm going to do my thing and get out of here, everybody. Success in getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. I have 226 subscribers to the In the Dungeon show en route to 1,000. I can do a hell of a lot more stuff with 1,000 than I can with 226. So part of that journey, I think, is with the listeners. If you have not subscribed and you like the show, subscribe, tell people. I don't know how this thing works, man. Only thing I can do is the best job that I can do. Help a brother out. Follow me on Twitter as well. I love to, converse back and forth. And once again, I want to send thoughts and prayers and so much love and gratitude to all of the people who are playing a role in helping to squash these fires, and for the people who have experienced loss monetarily or human life. Again, my prayers go out to you. I'm really sorry for your loss. All right. With that said, I'm going to break down and I'm going to end tonight's show. But I want to thank you once again. My name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon show, and maybe I'll pop off on Wednesday night after the Warriors play the Minnesota Timberwolves. With that said, let's say goodnight. Peace out, everybody.